Welcome everyone to this geopolitical channel. So today I would like to talk with you about this CONAVID-19 virus and to see it not from a sanitary point of view but from a geopolitical point of view, all the geopolitical consequences of this ongoing virus and what effect it could have on the geopolitical level. So what we see over the last weeks, it's many countries have closed their borders vis-à-vis each other, like between Russia and Popular Republic of China, Mongolia, Popular Republic of China, and all neighbors of the Islamic Republic of Iran have also closed their border. Like the idea that the border is a protection now, again, surfaced again, is now very popular at the light of this virus, and this will have a very important consequences, not from an economic point of view from those countries. It will push countries, let's say, not only to trade vis-à-vis each other, but probably also to trade domestically due to the closure of borders. So what we see is probably a beginning of let's say what we can call a deglobalization, this process of reduction of globalization. People think that now this globalization is dangerous from a sanitary point of view, as we have already started seeing this process with, for example, the tariffs that the United States have put on Chinese goods or any other goods from any other place. So it has already started, and actually this process is supported by many people around this world who has saw a very adverse effect of the globalization for part of the worldwide population, especially from, let's say, from people working on factories, especially in developing countries, which saw, let's say, the closure of many factories, but also in services, which also have been outsourced from those developing countries to less developing countries where salaries are, let's say, less higher. So what we see right now, it's like this idea that the globalization can be really also dangerous. So now from a sanitary point of view, and let's say in order to protect your population, the leaders decides to close the borders. But what will happen is that the least developed countries like Iran will suffer a lot from those closure of the border, because they could not anymore trade with their neighbors like Turkey or Iraq, and the same for example Iraq. It will suffer a lot from the closure of the border with Iran. Both of them are the main clients for each other. For Iran, the main client its main client is Iraq, and for Iraq, its main client is Iran. And so the closure of the border, it's a big blow. It's a huge blow for both of them, for the economy of both of them, and we know that the economics for both of them is on the brink of collapse. And maybe for Iran, the economy has probably already even collapse. We are talking about negative growth in Iran. In Iraq, we are still growth is positive, but still we are talking about a huge unemployment, very unsatisfied population, with ongoing riots since now October. So the closure of the border for both countries will have a very adverse effect, and could, for example, in Iraq, lead maybe to a deterioration of the economy, and perhaps will lead to a change of regime, that due to the fact that Iraq could not be able, let's say, to repay its debt due to, let's say, the lowering of the oil price. the Iraqi government could default on its debt, and so what we could see, it's a change of regime in Iraq, but also the same in Iran, because this economic situation is not better. And so what we can see is this virus, CONAVID-19, is really having a huge toll on many countries, in some countries like Iraq, Iran, and so we could see, based on what I said, a very important geopolitical channel, change of regime, less trade between countries, so deglobalization, change of regime. It could have this scenario could also happen in Popular Republic of China, where you have a huge amount of debt in the private sector, and this virus and the fact that many companies are now suffering due to the lack of activity could also have a huge or could have some effect also socially and perhaps politically. That's why the Chinese President Xi Jinping said last Sunday that this sanitary is the worst since 1948, but actually we could replace the adjective sanitary by political, probably, or economic, because we will probably see over next week the economic and social consequences of this virus, with the huge effect that it could have on economics in China. So just to see, just to what basically to summarize what we are saying. So basically this virus is leading to this idea of closing borders due to a threat, in this case a virus, to put people in quarantine, in confinement, if, for example, they pose a sanitary threat. So what we see, it's like those old ideas of protection, which we see lead to some geopolitical channels due to the fact that people will trade less, will travel less, and in a way will have effect on economics on some countries, and those effects could lead to social unrest, which could lead to a topple of current government. It's what I see basically. For sure, we cannot draw definitive conclusion due to the fact that this sanitary crisis has just started 1-2 months ago, so it's for sure too premature to make a definitive conclusion. But if the situation, the sanitary crisis, is worsening, I mean, those consequences that I have described just earlier could really come true over the next months, and we will follow this situation, those developments over the next day in this channel.